State.
What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Shortly thereafter, we will be making way for coverage of Furman and Montana. Furman and Montana in the FCS quarterfinal. Guys, are you as jacked for this game as we are? Football in the snow, there's just something about it that is special, right? Furman in the final 8, playing for a national championship. This has been, if you consider what has happened since the start of September, okay? So what has happened since the start of September until now? This has been about the most depressing few months of sports we've ever seen, with but one exception, the Furman Paladins. This fall, choking on a splinter over here. Sorry about that. This fall, we have witnessed the Braves as a heavy World Series favorites, bounced in their first playoff series. We have witnessed Clemson with a playoff or bust edict hanging over them, be eliminated from the playoff in the month of September. We have witnessed the South Carolina Gamecocks coming off of an 8-4 regular season last year, a top 25 finish, rendered irrelevant yet again. And we have witnessed the Carolina Panthers leave the NFL and join the XFL in terms of their caliber of play. Folks, there is one really sweetheart, feel-good story in the upstate this year, and that belongs to the Furman Paladins. Can I get an amen for that? Where can you hear the Furman Paladin football game? Right here on the Fan Upstate. Coverage beginning half an hour when our show is concluded, right here. Also on national television tonight. If you want to see a game in a blizzard, this is going to be the game for you. I believe it's on ESPN2. And what I thought was interesting yesterday, Diesel, in our chat with Clay Hendricks, was his feeling that, like he said a couple of times, they're just like we are. Like Montana is just like we are. And they're the 2 seed in this thing. You know, the 7 seed is having to play the 2. They're the 2 seed. And Clay Hendricks doesn't sound the least bit intimidated about going to Missoula, Montana. I guess when all the celebrities buy their cabins in Montana, this is not the time of year that they're going, right?
No,
I guess this is not what they had in mind.
I remember seeing by the way, there's no forecast for snow in Missoula, Montana tonight. As of kickoff their time, 33 degrees, partly cloudy. It's going to plunge to about 29 degrees by 11 p.m., but no snow expected in Montana, 3-mile-an-hour winds. So it's going to be a rather calm night, but cold. I think the Furman guys are going to be fine. I think they're going to be just fine. But I remember seeing a 60 Minutes. Yeah, I watched 60 Minutes because you know what? It's actually good reporting story about all the California liberals moving to Montana, to Idaho. You know, they're trying to go out there and get a piece of that quiet mountain sort of wilderness lifestyle. And you know what they're doing? They're turning it into California. They're building Starbucks as far as the eye can see and fancy places to shop and eat. Like, you leave California to go to Montana and get the Montana experience, but all you do is bring your California crap to Montana.
Well, I'll tell you, Diesel, there was a time in our lives where we were all after a piece, you know? I'm not sure if it's what you are talking about, but there's a time in our life where that is the case. Sometimes I also wonder, Diesel, if God, if we're in an experiment that God has, you know, to see if he can continue to grow and improve the human race, and he's seeing how long it takes us to ruin what he's given us. You know what I mean? Like, we're in many cases, we're well on our way, right? Why is everyone buying up property in Montana? Because it's one of the last bastions of peace and quiet that you have in this country. And Furman is experiencing that right now. I think Furman's got a chance. I think Furman's got a viable shot tonight, my friends. What say you? What do you think? The Montana Grizz. I don't know. We have sports where everyone wants to be the fearsome, animal for the mascot, right? We have the Tigers and we have the Bears. And I know Grizzly falls under that, but I'm shocked more teams don't adopt the Grizzly. Look, to me, the biggest obstacle tonight is not even the weather itself, okay? It's not even the weather itself. It's not even the team itself. It's the weather. Can you overcome the weather? Can you overcome the conditions? I think we're going to look up in the third or fourth quarter tonight, and I think Furman is going to be very, very much in the game. And I think we're going to be saying, well, look what we have here. This is mighty incredible. Furman and, mind you, should North Dakota State beat South Dakota, then Furman, with a win, would host the national semifinal next week right here in Greenville, South Carolina, which, Diesel, if I may, should have been what we've been discussing the whole time anyway.
Sure, it should have been. There are 42 colleges in America with bear mascots. Not Division I, wow, but there are 42, including the University of Maine. They are the Black Bears. You got the Baylor Bears. You got the Montana Grizzlies. Obviously, the UCLA Bruins. There are quite a few out there. There's a lot of really small schools that have bears as mascots. Morgan State has a bear. Missouri State are the Bears. Bob Jones are Bears. Did you know that? I didn't know that at all. I didn't even know Bob Jones had a mascot.
No, I didn't either. What is your confidence level tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that the one and only Furman Paladins can make the upstate incredibly proud? I mean, this has been the year of the din, right? Upset Virginia in round one, on the national news as the featured Cinderella in March Madness. In a year in which the other teams in this area have not given us much to cheer for, how about the Furman Paladins? And might I add that in their stated goal to become Greenville's team, the Furman Paladins are making massive inroads. Now, I hear you, Wofford. I see you, Wofford. You and your 2-win season. I hear you. I see you. You are the victor, and to the victor go the spoils, right? I get it. I grasp it. You earned the dub, and no one's going to take that away from you, all right? We carry Furman games here on the Fan Upstate. We do have a Wofford flag somewhere in this studio, okay? We represent the entire upstate, and you guys earned that win, and we're not about to take that away from you. But it's Furman that is in the final 8 of the FCS playoffs, and brother, I am signing up for this tonight.
Madcraft asked the question on the YouTube stream. That spread is 17 points. I don't know anything about Montana, but is that high? Yeah, that's a high spread, Madcraft, but Montana's been putting up a lot of points, especially during the playoffs. But Furman is just one of those teams that finds ways to win. They've had games where they've put up a lot of points and they've won in blowouts. They've had several games where they've had to win 17-13 type games. So I think Furman is prepared to be able to win no matter what the circumstances are in this game.
Furman is equipped, as they say. Texter says, no snow tonight, but it snowed last night and part of today in Montana. There used to be an ECHL team called the Alaska Aces. They moved to Maine. Texter says, Mark, I'm excited about Furman's chances tonight. F you all the time. Right here on the Fan Upstate. Coverage beginning tonight, my friends, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time when the show is over. If you're on the YouTube stream, you might be saying to yourself, well, Mark Ryan, well, like the digs, like what are you dressing for? We've got the company Christmas party tonight. We do. Company Christmas party rolling on until 10 p.m. this evening. And Diesel and I already talked about off the air. Like, what's the first thing we're doing when we get to the clubhouse? We are finding a TV. We are making sure that TV is on ESPN2. All right? and we are grabbing our favorite adult beverage, and we are planning that ass right there.
We are getting live photos because Dan Scott is connected on the Comrex right now. We're getting live photos from Montana Grizzlies Stadium. I'm going to put it here on the webcam so those of you watching on the web stream can see the scene out there. It is it's one of the most beautiful places to go watch a football game with just mountains coming right up to the back of the stadium. It's just something absolutely gorgeous.
Man, it is something else.
It's been a bucket list stadium of mine for a long time.
Yeah, it's just incredible. So anyway, guys, we are here. We are excited about that. If you have felt like sports have kind of let you down this fall, join us in celebrating the Furman Paladins as they give it all they've got tonight to try to make it to the national semifinal of the FCS. We're here for it. Guys, there is a lot of discussion about one Jim Harbaugh in the news right now. A ton of discussion about Jim Harbaugh in the news right now. What's going to become of Harbaugh at Michigan? What's going to become of Michigan and the national championship? I have posted today a 12-team college football playoff bracket. And this year, more than any other, right? It's where you can ask the question, who would win a 12-team college football playoff this year? Would it be Michigan? Would it be Alabama, Washington, Texas, Florida State, Georgia? How about Ohio State or Oregon? Most years you'd say, yeah, Mark, I'd pick the same team to win the 12-team that I would the 4-team. But this is a year where you've got an undefeated Power 5 not in it. You've got Georgia with 1 loss and 2 banged-up stud receivers in the SEC championship game. That's the reason why they're not in it, right? So I think this Michigan Jim Harbaugh discussion is an interesting one. Because right now, the Michigan Wolverines are attempting to sign Jim Harbaugh to a 5-year extension for $11 million a year, $55 million total, fully guaranteed. But there is one caveat, my friends, one caveat. Jim Harbaugh, should he sign it, is not allowed to flirt with, discuss NFL opportunities. Will you commit to us? Or are you always going to have a wavering eye?
Is you in or is you out?
Right. So that is the $1 million question right now, facing the Michigan Wolverines and facing Jim Harbaugh. Guys, I've seen enough. I've seen enough after the sign-stealing stuff came out. I think this is going to be a very competitive playoff. And I think Alabama is capable of beating Michigan. But right now, Michigan is my pick to win the national championship this year. And if they do, why wouldn't Jim Harbaugh change plans? Why wouldn't he ride off into the sunset? What else can he do? He's got a 3-game winning streak against Ohio State. Is that going to get any better? I mean, I suppose 3 wins could become 4, but why not ride off in the sunset with a 3-game winning streak over Ohio State? If you win the national championship, can it get any better than that?
Plus, you know full well that the NCAA is going to keep coming at you and keep coming at you and keep coming at you. If you're prepared for that, fine. But if you don't want that smoke on you every single year, every week, maybe it's time to get on out, especially if you win the national championship. You've done what you set out to accomplish. Move on and try something else.
Why do you think Michigan is trying to get this done right now? You know, they see what's happening in the NFL. They see the writing on the wall that 7 coaches lose their job in the National Football League every single year. Just 2 have lost it so far. Frank Reich, Josh McDaniels, just 2 have lost their gigs so far. 5 more are likely to lose it. Many are going to be ringing up Jim Harbaugh. Jim, what do you say? We'd like to give you control over our program. Jim is going to say, you mean I don't have to deal with this transfer portal BS? You mean I don't have to deal with this NIL stuff? You mean I don't have to deal with Connor Stallions and people on our staff cheating? You mean I don't have to deal with that? All I have to do is deal with football? I don't think Jim Harbaugh signs the deal, folks. I do not think he signs the deal. And if the NFL is cooling on Jim Harbaugh the way that they say they are, I think he takes a phone call from Dave Tepper. But Dave Tepper is going to have to do something that Dave Tepper isn't want to do. He's going to have to get the hell out of the way and button his lip. Frankly, I'm tired of hearing that guy. I'm tired of seeing him. Everything he touches turns to bleep. I'm tired of him. You know, if Jim Harbaugh is willing to come to your sad sack franchise and try to resurrect it from the dead, you let Jim Harbaugh do what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. And that's about all I have to say about that. If I'm Jim Harbaugh, I don't sign the deal. If I'm Michigan, I think they win the national championship this year. If I'm a Michigan fan, I understand and want my team to re-sign Jim Harbaugh. It's very predictable why they're doing it right now. But that is a stipulation of the contract that I do not believe Jim Harbaugh is going to sign. All right, up next on the show, this is simply not what college football is designed to be. That, my friends, is next, and this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Fantastic to have you guys with us. Merry Christmas, one and all. The feeling of Christmas is in the air. Do you guys have any tips for kids and Santa Claus and Christmas time? You guys got any tips for this? I'm very aware of the fact that kids are listening right now, okay? I'm very aware of that fact. We were presented a challenge this week with our 6-year-old and Christmas and Santa Claus. And I'm curious, okay, again, I think you guys know, adults in the room, you know where I'm going with this. But what do you do to foster that goodwill and belief, right? What do you do as a parent? Because something happened this week, really burned my brownies. It's like, I'm like, we've got a challenge with Jackson and Christmas and Santa Claus. We've got a challenge, okay, on our hands. And I'm determined to win. All right. I am hell-bent, determined to win. I hope I said that in a way that was kid safe for the kids listening. I hope I did. But I need your help and I need your advice, Offsiders. All right. Because there is a challenge there and I am wanting to do and fight for this because that part of Christmas, the Santa Claus part of Christmas is the best part of Christmas when you are a kid. You catch my drift? The best part of Christmas as a kid. 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. Texter says, I say Furman wins 27-24. Go Dins. Texter says, Jim Harbaugh will be the head coach of the Chicago Bears where he played if Michigan doesn't sign him. I think the Chicago Bears are the last place Jim Harbaugh is going to be. Do you know why? It's going to be the last place that he's going to be because Kevin Warren, the former commissioner of the Big Ten, who he and Jim Harbaugh hated one another, is now the president of the Chicago Bears. That is literally the last place Jim Harbaugh is going to be, right? But anyway, guys, I want to shift gears here to this. Do you guys find this the same way that I do, right? It's interesting. As things percolate and get out there, you got a segment of the population that wants to come at you for everything, right? For everything. So I had a tweet yesterday. We had a development during the show, a couple developments actually. Number one, great news for Clemson fans. Barrett Carter, a projected first or second round linebacker, returning to Clemson. All right. Why is he a unicorn? Well, because he's a projected first or second round pick in the NFL draft. And this is what happens, right? The people don't do that anymore. People don't just come back to school when they're projected to go that highly in the NFL draft. He's a unicorn. And that's a beautiful thing. But it's also what happens when you've established a culture people want to be a part of. So I issue congratulations to Dabo, to Barrett, but also you, the Clemson fans. Why? Because you built this. All of you, built this special vibe, this special environment that exists at Clemson that kids want to be a part of, right? From fans to coach to program. You built this. And that's why Barrett Carter wants to come back. Why wouldn't he want to come back to that, right? It's something incredibly special to come back to. So I think this is an awesome deal. Now, along the same lines yesterday, I got the news that Trevor Etienne, Florida star running back Travis Etienne's brother, now of the Jacksonville Jaguars, announced that he is hitting the transfer portal. Of course he is. Diesel's running back at Appalachian State one of the top 5 leading rushers in the nation,
Nate Noel,
is hitting the transfer portal. Everybody is hitting the transfer portal. It's the cool place to be, man. Yeah, the transfer portal is the cool kids club. Whatever, count me out. With a guy like Trevor Etienne, it's not about playing time for him. He is the guy at Florida coming back for 2024. He's the man. He is the top playmaker for a blue blood brand. Oh, Mark Ryan, you are using the term blue blood very, very loosely. Okay, well, Florida has won 3 national championships in the last 30 years. Do you want to know the other programs in college football who can make that claim? Florida State, LSU, Alabama, and Nebraska. There's 3 programs. Those are the programs that have won 3 national championships in the last 30 years. Florida is a blue blood program. They just haven't been squat for a minute now. Okay? It doesn't mean like you don't lose your blue blood status because your program hits a little slump. But Trevor Etienne is hitting the portal because there is uncapped free agency where the highest bidder claims the prize. And my friends, this is disgusting. It is disgusting. The sport needs guardrails badly. So badly. The sport needs guardrails. Now, I've presented to you my case, and I believe that schools like Clemson are using the transfer portal the right way, okay? They're having a transfer portal wing of their athletic department. You can go and you can build your brand, and that's what NIL is supposed to be. You know, build your brand, hone your skills, develop yourself, right? Earn a sponsorship with a local business. Not we will pay you X amount of dollars to come here. That's not what the transfer portal is supposed to be. And you heard me mention this week, with all that South Carolina has lost in the transfer portal, you heard me mention this week, man, is Shane Beamer going to be able to field a team? Like, what is going on in Columbia? And I don't understand this, Diesel. Maybe you can help me understand it a little bit. But the whataboutism from Gamecock fans is not a great look. When Trevor Etienne hits the portal, the first thing I hear is, whoa, Mark, how about Billy Napier? Gamecock fans, hello, your bus is leaving. Do you really want to be in a discussion with Billy Napier right now? Gator fans want Billy Napier out yesterday. Okay, so stop worrying about my program and start worrying about yours. I know my program has problems. Okay? So it like this, oh, what about you? I mean, it really gives off the vibes of, hey, mommy, Mark hit me first. You know, look, Florida's got issues. South Carolina has issues. This is not where you want to be right now. Everybody, when they have got a star player, he leaves for the highest bidder these days in college football. And if you think that's good for college football, you don't love college football very much. You know, Mrs. Etienne, Trevor's mom, yesterday came out with a statement, and she said, simply put, this is the decision that's best for our family. That is all. It's the decision that's best for our family. You don't even have to give an explanation anymore. It's best. No kidding. You're about to get $500,000, $600,000 or more to enter the transfer portal. And guys, the continuity that is lost here. Cliff Ellis, you know that name, Cliff Ellis? He was the coach for Coastal Carolina in basketball. Retired this week. Why? He said, this game that I am coaching today is not a game that I recognize anymore. There's no way to have continuity in today's college basketball. Do you think Shane Beamer, Billy Napier feel like there's any way to have continuity today? You know, and if you say to me, well, Mark Ryan, that's Florida's fault. They went 5-7. Yeah, how about you be a man and you try to help change that if you're Trevor Etienne? Do you leave your friends when the going gets tough? You remember that saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going? Do you peace out on your friends when things are hard? Or do you hold them more closely to you? Do you hunker down and say, Coach, I'm going to help you get out of this? Trevor Etienne takes his football and goes home. Pathetic. Julius on I-85 joins us next here on the show. Hey, Julius, thanks for the call. You're offsides.
Hey, Mark, look, we need to get to the root of the problem, though. You know, a lot of times these universities are making promises to these players that they know they can't keep, but then they want the players to keep their end of the obligation. So that's a two-way street. It's a little bit deeper than what we actually see on the surface.
So what does that actually mean? Everybody says this, they make promises. What are they, hang on a second. What are these promises that universities aren't keeping? Because last I checked, they're not kicking these kids out of their dorm rooms. They're not turning them away from the meal halls. They're not letting them limp away from the exercise table hurt. What promises are they not keeping?
All right. So, for example, you get a kid, for example, if he's a 4-star receiver or DB, all right, you when you're recruiting him, you're telling him one thing, say, all right, well, when you come on the campus, you're going to get play time. And a lot of times that's not even the case. So a kid's frustrated on the front end because he's saying, you've all made a promise to him that you're not going to keep.
Well, but how do you know that?
And you've just assumed that a coach is promising him X amount of snaps per game.
You don't know that at all. What this kid is getting is a ton of investment financially and time and otherwise, and he's not honoring his commitment.
Mark, I can give you a good example. When you think about, you remember the 30-on-30 with Bo Jackson. You remember that whole ordeal with him in Alabama and Auburn?
Yeah.
You remember that situation? You remember when he got recruited by Alabama? Alabama had told him on the front end, well, look, you know, you come in, but you might get in. You're late sophomore, early junior year.
But Julius, you're giving me a single example that has nothing to do with anything going on today.
From 40 years ago.
It's no different. Recruiting's no different now.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so Julius, what you're telling us is that you're making a lot of assumptions that is really a case-by-case basis. Conversations had between coaches and players. We don't know if these coaches are promising X number of snaps as a freshman. We don't know if they're just promising them an opportunity to go out there and earn their snaps. But you're just assuming that the coaches are saying to every single kid, you're going to play the whole game. You know what? We're going to make you an Ironman player. We're going to put you on offense and defense. Heck, we'll throw you out there as special teams as well. I don't know that they're making the promises that you think they are.
Well, they're leaving for some reason, right? What's the reason?
Well, I don't know. That's why you called us, thought you knew.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not always case by NIL, right? They're leaving for a reason, right? It's because somebody's making them a promise. Somewhere.
Okay, well, but wait a minute. If you wanted to clear the air, Julius, wouldn't you share the reason why you're leaving? None of these guys are sharing the reason. Okay? When you have something to hide, what do? You don't share the reason. When the optics of something don't look good, what do? You don't share the reason. Trevor Etienne's mom comes out and essentially says, it's the best decision for our family. That's all I'm going to say. Okay. Why are you leaving? You know, if someone breaks up with you, Julius, isn't the least they can offer you the reason why they're leaving you? Not just leaving you, but give you a reason?
You got a great point. But like I said, we need to get to the root of the problem.
Okay, but you don't know what the root of the problem is. You got a bunch of kids leaving that never left before that are all going to the highest bidder. We know that to be true. Julius, thank you very much for the phone call. I do appreciate it, man. Thanks for ringing us up.
Hey, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So, guys, here is something that you also do not realize that is happening right now. All right. And the players of college football are gaslighting you. They're gaslighting you. Diesel has a better definition for gaslighting than I do, but it's essentially, it's sleight of hand. It's redirecting you. It's look over here and I'm going to slide something by you over there, right? Gaslighting. And here's how football players of today are gaslighting you. They're allowing you to puff up this notion that they're being abused. Would somebody please abuse me with a free room and board, with free every meal, with meals whenever I want from the Tiger Bistro at Clemson that features lobster rolls and all different sorts of fettuccine Alfredo, the Tiger Bistro with whole coolers, with gallons of electrolyte drinks with my name on them, $200,000 worth of education. And then, oh, by the way, about $50,000 per year per player in coaching time and development. These players have successfully gaslighted you that they are getting abused.
Yep.
Please abuse me like that.
They have convinced you that the entirety of what they receive from the university is valueless. Is valueless. Oh, I get nothing. They don't give me anything. What about all those free clothes on your back, the food in your stomach, the doctors working on your calf every time you've got a strain? That doesn't hold any value to you? That's what I don't understand is we've got listeners, fans of this game, convinced that the totality of what a university invests into a player is valueless because there's no cash being traded. And you are flat out wrong. Every single one of you who believes that is flat out wrong and naive. And you've all been tricked. You've been duped by players to believe that those things don't hold any value whatsoever. By the way, the definition of gaslighting is making someone seem or feel unstable, irrational, or not credible, making them feel like what they're seeing or experiencing isn't real. That's the definition of gaslighting.
Okay. So let's get to Rick, who's up next. Rick, how do we fix the transfer portal debacle in college football?
I don't know, Mark. I think the transfer portal came along at the wrong time. I don't know how to fix it. We got way too many good players in the transfer portal, and they just think they can just, I don't know. I think they think there's no loyalty to football anymore. That's it. No loyalty.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it, buddy.
Let me speak on behalf of Furman University. They play tonight, don't they, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you, I've been trying to find somewhere to watch this game. There's nowhere in the world going to have this game on TV but one place, and that's the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to give props to the Hall of Fame so you can watch the Furman game tonight. They're streaming it.
Well, you don't need to stream it. It's on ESPN2.
I didn't know that.
You don't,
I thought that it was just.
No, you don't even need to stream it now. Hall of Fame is a great place.
Thank you.
We love them. We love them to death. We love them to death, but you don't need to stream it. It's on ESPN2 tonight. It's also on the Fan Upstate tonight.
And the third thing is, I live in Greer. I went to Smith and James. I love that place. Props to Smith and James. They make you look like $1 million. I look like 5 cents going in and $1 million coming out.
I'm wearing Smith and James right now. What do you guys think? Rocking it out with Smith and James. Sponsor plug here on the show. All right, guys, we will keep the conversation going right here. There's a couple of relatively famous people who have come at me for this opinion on the transfer portal. I know, guys, it's the vocal minority, right, that crows the loudest, but there's a lot of folks that are with me. You know, the tweet yesterday on Trevor Etienne has now been seen by 373,000 people. All right? The ratio on it is very positive for people siding with me on what is coming, what is happening to college football. We'll tackle the 411 on this next here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Great to have you guys with us. Guys, so I wanted to share this with you. I shared with you my tweet about Trevor Etienne yesterday, right? It's not about playing time for upper echelon guys like Trevor Etienne. Etienne is the top playmaker for a blue blood brand at the University of Florida. It's about entering uncapped free agency where the highest bidder claims the prize. And it's disgusting. The sport of college football needs guardrails badly. And as you might imagine, not everybody is overly happy with my take. Mark Ryan, what are you trying to say? You wouldn't take an offer for significantly more money if one came along? Am I a college student? Am I a student? Am I an amateur athlete? Or am I a professional? Is Trevor Etienne an amateur athlete, a student, or a professional? You go to college to best yourself for your career. You know, you make a commitment to a college that makes a commitment to you. All right? Like, you guys have forgotten all about that. Your perception is that these schools are rolling in money. Well, I'll tell you this, only 25 to 30 out of 130 schools even turn a profit on college football. 25 make a profit on college football. 105 are at a deficit for college football. Why do they have a team then? Because of the facelift that it gives the school. Okay? So what you are doing by encouraging players to go to the highest bidder is you are further ruining a sport that now exists among an atmosphere where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and there is no middle class. And I've had quite a few people come at me about this. This dude, and I'll share with you one of the more famous ones in a minute, but this dude, Bill Beard, said, the stupidity here. You're part of the reason where we are where we are. You make dollars off of them too. Shut the bleep up. Corey Hayes says the audacity of players having autonomy. Gasping and clutching my pearls over here, Mark Ryan. Guys, when you allow players to commit to you and then leave, transfer portal, then leave, everyone goes to the highest bidder, you lose fans. You can't build a team. It's not what college football was designed to be at any point ever. All right? And you don't understand what a commitment is. I can't leave this job for any job. I have a non-compete clause. Where is that in college football? Where does it say, hey, if we invest $50,000 a year in you this year and you leave, you've got to pay that back to us?
Plus, no autonomy for some of these athletes. They chose to sign on the dotted line. They chose which school they wanted to go to. Top players probably have a dozen or more options to choose from when it comes to where they might want to go spend the next 4 years of their life. Like, nobody's forcing the best players in college football to go to Alabama or Ohio State or Penn State and experience these lavish buildings and free food and a great education. Look, just because some of these and I want to be clear about this, just because some of these athletes don't value an education at some of the elite institutions in this country doesn't mean that their education and their time there is valueless. And you guys have been convinced, a lot of you have been convinced that it's meaningless. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Why does this kid need to go to school? He's just going to go play in the NFL. You know how few of them actually make it to the NFL? Was it like 1% of college football players don't make it to the NFL or make it to the NFL? Yeah. So 99% don't. So 99% are completely squandering an opportunity of a lifetime that most everyone else would jump at the chance to take advantage of. But they choose not to because you guys have bought into it. Somebody else convinced them that it's valueless, and you guys bought into it.
Let's get to Mongo, who's up next here on the show. Hey, Mongo, you're offsides.
What's going on, gentlemen? So I'm I guess, pretty vocal about the transfer portal as well on social media and stuff like that. And like you, Mark, I get a lot of hate because I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I understand it's the world we're in now, but unfortunately, what it shows me is something that I teach my kids not to be, and that's being a sellsword. When you go out into the world, you don't jump from job to job to job to job just because somebody gives you $1 more on the hour, because eventually when you pull your resume out to try to go get a job, they're going to look at it and say, well, you're not a reliable person because, we want somebody that's going to be here that want to build a career at this place. I'm kind of hoping that's what eventually happens with this transfer portal stuff. Maybe I'm fooling myself. It probably won't happen that way. But I've had people come at me with the argument of, well, you say these students are, should be lucky to have this education, but they can't afford to buy themselves a pizza if they want to on the weekends. And that dog don't hunt, because it's been, players are being paid for years. You can't tell me that Jadeveon Clowney didn't have plenty of money in his pocket when he was at the University of South Carolina to buy himself a pizza. I mean, all you had to do in 1998 is drive on a football stadium's lot and see the players' cars that are sitting there. But your third string long snapper doesn't get the same, benefits as, the first string quarterback.
I'll tell you what, Mongo, I'm going to tell you what here. Pretty soon, this sport is going to lose so much popularity that there isn't going to be a highest bidder left. And all these people finger pointing are going to do like Homer Simpson and back up into the bushes, not to be found, not to be seen, because, all of this of fighting for your rights is what's killing the sport. They're getting a $200,000 education. They're getting a chance to play for major schools. They're getting free meals left and right. You and I are in student debt for 30 years. These guys get an education that sets them up for the rest of their life, and they get to make money off their name, image, and likeness. You got to be kidding me. Mongo, we got to run. I appreciate it very, very much. I want to share this last thing with you here. You guys have heard of Mike Golick, right? Formerly of Mike and Mike. His son, Mike Golick Jr., He quote tweeted my Trevor Etienne stance, and he said, "This is the kind of rhetoric that only shows up when the bad thing is currently happening to your school." So he says, I'm only saying that because it's happening to Florida. You guys who listen to the show know better, right? You guys who listen to the show know this is something we have been saying for years, for freaking years. And again, he's a recent college football player who wants you to think they're getting taken advantage of and abused. Please, it's like the scene from American Pie. I was used? Hell yeah, I was used.
Wait till the universities have to start scaling back what they can offer to players because they're spending so much money paying players.
100%. Brent Beard next here on Offsides, the Fan Upstate. My friends, it is fantastic to be here with you on Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, we are the Fan Upstate on the YouTube channel. Wearing my Sunday best. We've got a company Christmas party a little bit later this evening. Actually begins in 2 hours, but we've got a full show for you today. Furman against Montana in the FCS quarterfinal. Coverage begins here on the Fan Upstate with our friend Dan Scott at 7:30 p.m., an hour and a half before kickoff at 9. If you're not in a place where you could listen, want to watch the game, it'll also be televised nationally on ESPN2. Joined right now by our dear friend, Heisman Trophy voter Brent Beard. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Who'd you vote for?
Oh, that was slick.
Yeah, you like that? Just slide that right in there, buddy. You don't realize it, but you don't even know what I just did. How you doing, my friend? What's going on?
I'm doing fine. I'm excited about did my voting on actually it was Sunday, and it took a while to get it done, but we got it done. My 9-year-old granddaughter could probably help me through it, Mark, and I would have done a lot better technology wise, but we will see the presentation and all that goes with it on tomorrow night. Excited about seeing some of Army Navy. Really appreciate the tradition of what that game means, and but always great to be on with you guys.
Brent, it does feel like Jaden Daniels is a strong favorite in this thing. Does it not? I mean, that's what it feels to me. Why was so much on the line in a single game for Bo Nix? Because prior to that one, he was a slight favorite over Jaden. Since that game, it's been a landslide in Jaden's favor. Why?
I think maybe because that Bo Nix was in a conference championship game and Jaden Daniels was not. His team was playing for, and I'm not saying this is right necessarily, but I think people viewed that as Bo was involved with higher stakes than Jaden Daniels. But again, that's not the criteria. The criteria is who's the best player in the nation during the season. So I think that's probably what it was. But you know, we had a discussion down here, Mark, that you really do wonder with Daniels and with LSU. Listen, if they had had a real defense and they had a real opportunity to play in the championship game, I mean, what kind of publicity would he have gotten? I wonder if it would have been almost unprecedented with all the numbers that he put up this year.
Brent, we hear the names just rolling out every single day, every single hour, guys that are joining the transfer portal. Can you give us an idea of some of the top 2, 3, 4 teams that have really been hit the absolute hardest by this so far?
Yeah, a lot of guys. Vanderbilt, for one. I know a lot of people don't pay much attention to Vanderbilt, but they've had 17, and now some of this is going to be more because the latest I've got was like Wednesday late. Auburn's had 13 that have been in the portal. Kentucky 11. A&M has had 10 also. So that Oklahoma is at 10. So that in South Carolina, if I'm looking at that right, at that point on Wednesdays, they had 15. And again, the thing we've got to remember too is because, and hopefully these guys find where they want to go, but we're also in an age too to where some of them are trying to, let's just be honest, get a raise. If I go in the portal and there may be a few people looking after me, would I be able to up the ante and get more money, particularly if I'm like a quarterback? And then what I'm making now. So, and some of these guys may get what they want, and they never leave the original school.
Brent Beer joining us. Brent, I'm disgusted by what I'm seeing on the portal front. And I don't want to be old man yelling at cloud or any of this stuff, Brent, but to me, what I feel like is going on here, you've got different factions of people who love the sport, and then another faction that feels like these players have been abused for years. And I feel like the players are allowing that narrative to exist. They're allowing people to feel like they've been gaslighted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brent, could you please abuse me in the form of a $200,000 education, eating at the Tiger Bistro at Clemson where they have lobster rolls and shrimp tortellini, 3 meals a day, every single day.
Right.
Why has that been diminished so badly? And then I keep hearing, Mark, you would leave for a higher paying job. If someone offered you $200,000 a year, Mark, you would leave. Well, Brent, I am a professional. Okay. These are amateur athletes getting a college education that have signed on to a commitment at a school that is making a financial investment in their future. Where is this getting lost?
Well, it's been lost for a while, unfortunately. And look, and you've got facilities like, people may not know this, but LSU's got in their football facility, the players have lockers that are elaborate and big enough to where they can take a nap in them. When you think about things of that nature, look, I remember when it really meant something that you got the full cost of the scholarship. Look, and I know there are people listening to us right now who have probably done the same thing, and they value their scholarship. It was room and board, and look, players get things even before you had the monetary situation. They got a clothing allowance that they could use around bowl game time and across the season. No, Mark, I'm with you with that. When was and why is getting a scholarship a bad thing? There are a lot of people who love to have had a scholarship when they went to school, but they weren't athletic enough in order to get it. And I think the difficult thing about this is, to go along with what you're saying, where's the ceiling? We know where the ground is, but where does this end at some point? Nobody knows that.
Brent, I look at the proposal that Charlie Baker put out a few days ago that would allow universities, the top earning universities, to pay student athletes through some form of cash, stipend, or trusts, or things like that. My mind only sees doom and gloom with this, where maybe 20 or so universities can actually afford to do this.
Right.
The other 110 at the FBS level and then beyond would all go bankrupt trying to fund another X million dollars a year tacked on to their budgets. If this was designed before NIL got to the point that it did, I would say this is a fantastic forward-looking proposal. But now that these guys are getting $1 million plus year in, some of these guys are getting multi-million-dollar deals, there's no way to pull that toothpaste back into the tube. They'll say, well, we want the $30K from the university and the $1 million. Yeah. So in what way, is there anything in this proposal, and maybe you've dug into it more than I have, that would suggest to you that this would be a positive for all of college football, not just 20 to 25 of the elites?
I think you hit on something earlier when you said that the real shame of this is that it didn't come, 15 to 20 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago. Remember, guys, there was when we first started NIL, or actually before, there was the thought of, okay, I don't mind that the players are able to get some of this money, but let's put it in a trust and they will get it at the end of their eligibility or when they leave. So that was something a lot of people would have been for at this point. But no, I'm with you. I guess there's a part of me that appreciates them trying to do something, but you really do wonder how many years too late are they in dealing with this now?
Brent, you can tell Diesel and I are just in great moods today about all that's going on in college football. We are peaches, very, very chipper. Here's another one for you, buddy. You know that it is not easy for me to back up or support my hated rival, the Florida State Seminoles, in any way, shape, or form. Brent, yes. I can't believe what happened to them. And I know that you've covered Alabama, followed Alabama for a long time. I can't believe that Florida State wasn't the second most obvious choice for inclusion. Washington, number one, Florida State, number two. You got to debate about the ethics of Michigan. Should they be in because they knowingly cheated? If Michigan is in, then the debate is between Alabama and Texas. If Michigan is out, Alabama and Texas are in. But to me, the two shoo-ins were Florida State and Washington. I can't even believe we've gone down the road of, well, the four best teams. If it's four best teams, Georgia's in it because Georgia would be favored against anybody. I have never seen such an injustice to judge a team based on a player going down with injury.
Well, as you can imagine, that's been the main topic down here. Tallahassee is a couple hours away from where we live in Jacksonville. I mean, it was unbelievable how they were treated with this. We were fortunate in college football, and we talked about on this segment that at some point somebody would get caught up in this, and they would be the team that gets left out. And we were very fortunate up into this time that it only happened once, really. I mean, it's happened before, but nothing as egregious as what's happened to Florida State. I mean, they've done all they can do. I mean, they went undefeated. They won their championship. And if Jordan Travis had been healthy, how all this would have been changed at this point. I think there have been several things that have come out of this. One is, the people encouraging Florida State to celebrate what they've done. And another thing that's come out of it is they have got a lot more money for their own NIL through this. I mean, look, you can. I know that they threatened to sue people. All these things, and they signed off on it years ago. So I don't know how you can sue anybody in the midst of this. They made up some T-shirts, and I get that too, and trying to fuel the anger with it. But look, there's a couple things coming out of this. One is their conference, and particularly their commissioner, has got to stand up for whether it's Florida State or whoever it is with the playoffs, similar to what Sankey does with the SEC. The other really unfortunate thing is, and I don't know how many people have heard this, and I'll make this brief, but in 2021, the ACC formed this silly alliance with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten in order to stave off or slow down SEC expansion. Well, what was on the table before that began with this alliance was that the playoff would expand not next year, but this year. So this alliance, in essence, caused a 1-year delay with the playoffs, and it's incredibly unfortunate that the team that got caught up with this in Florida State ended up reaping the problems you got from that. So that's come out a little bit this week too. to go along with it. But yes, it's been a unbelievably long week down here for Florida State people.
Brent, as somebody on the ground, as a resident of Florida, can you give me your opinion on the absurdity of Governor Ron DeSantis setting aside $1 million to sue?
Look, the reality of it is, I mean, who are you really going to sue? I mean, it's not the NCAA. I mean, the playoffs are a committee and commissioners. That's not where this is going. I mean, by the time you look, let's just pretend a moment that by the time they wanted to try to do something like this, A, would it even be heard by a judge? And B, even if it did, how many years down the line will that happen? So, a lot of this is political posturing by different people. Then in the long run, it's not going to help Florida State. But I have talked to some Florida State sources who said that they still want to leave the conference, and nothing with this has changed their mind that that's not going to be their goal.
Looking to leave the conference sooner rather than later. Brent, I've got a couple of different guests today. I'm going to ask both of them this question. If we had a 12-team college football playoff this year, who would be your pick to win it? Okay? Knowing that when this thing kicks off, you're probably going to have a healthy Ladd McConkey, a healthy Brock Bowers, right? You will have a Tate Rodemaker that is far more familiar with what Florida State is trying to do. 12-team playoff this year, Brent. Who's winning it?
Oh, I would. I mean, you mentioned Georgia. I would certainly look. If Georgia had a chance in this thing, I would probably pick them. And then I'd probably go. Next would be some combination of Alabama and Texas, as well as those teams are playing. And boy, Washington's really hot too. But I would
Michigan, huh?
Georgia,
no Michigan.
I would say Georgia with Alabama and Texas up there close too.
Brent Beard joining us here on Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Bowl game not affiliated with the playoff, Brent, that you are most intrigued by?
How about Missouri and Ohio State? If that one happened, I'm intrigued by Missouri, the job that Eli Drinkwitz has done has been admirable. In the Cotton Bowl, they would have obviously more than double-digit wins. If Ole Miss beats Penn State, that will be the same thing. So I would go with Missouri and Ohio State right now in the Cotton Bowl. I think that's pretty intriguing.
Brent Beard joining us here on the show. Brent, whose seat is hotter entering 2024? Billy Napier or Shane Beamer?
I would even say Napier. I mean, Beamer has gotten some wins in November over his rivals, and I think you get some equity out of that, which unfortunately, besides a win over Tennessee, Napier doesn't have much to go with right there. So, and again, I mean, Napier will be back. There's no doubt. Losing, that is, if he goes, losing ETN hurt, Mark. I can tell you that. Frankly, the tremendous running back. So I would say Napier simply because Beamer's got more bigger wins than Napier does.
Brent Beard, Heisman Trophy voter. Maybe with a few extra threats, we'll be able to extract his Heisman Trophy vote from him. Buddy, we appreciate you so much, and we thank you for all that you do for us and for your support, and hope you have a great weekend, okay?
You guys too, and hope the party goes well too. How about can I find an ice cream truck and send it over there real quick?
Man, that would be an upgrade. There's no every party needs an ice cream truck, Brent.
They do, don't they?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Have a great one, my friend. Brent
You
Beard,
too, guys. Take
Heisman
care.
Trophy voter, joining us here on Offsides as he does each and every Friday. Each and every Friday. You know what, Trey? I am so sorry. Trey sent me questions for Brent Beard today, and I totally forgot them. So, Trey, that's my bad. I realized it right now. I'm going to get to some of these next week. I've starred your email, Trey. Feel free to send me a reminder next Friday to make sure I don't forget. Thank you, buddy. It's Offsides, the Fan Upstate.
Upstate.
It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. I want to tell you about something that I'm super excited about, guys. You are not going to believe what a college football playoff committee member told the guest that we're going to have in the very next segment. His name is Dennis Dodd, national personality on college football, CBS Sports. I believe he is the person that Shane Beamer said, find some joy to, okay, a year ago. He is one of the best in the business, hails from Overland Park, Kansas, right? He's a national college football writer for CBS Sports, and a committee member told him something that is going to knock your socks off, okay? Somebody that voted on the 4 teams that are playing in the college football playoff. He's got an article out about it right now. He couldn't believe he was told this very thing. And by the way, folks, did we just successfully create another driveway moment for you? You're heading somewhere. Now I can't go. I got to hear what is said on Offsides. I hope so, because when I heard this, I could not believe it.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Dennis Dodd himself joins us in the very next segment of the show today. Let's check on the carpro.com text line. Texter says, Mark, it's all good. I tried to send them a while back, but it didn't go through because I forgot to update my email password on my phone. Trey, if you copy and paste these to an email to me next Friday, I will ask them. I intended to do so today. We've had a lot of things percolating behind the scenes today, especially with this Dennis Dodd interview coming up, but my bad that I let that slip.
That was definitely buffoonery.
Yeah,
that was complete
it was
buffoonery.
I want to make sure I get to at least a few of those. Texter says, Mark, a lot of this started in the transfer portal because players were ticked the NCAA game didn't pay them. Kids thought they should get paid royalties off of a game that would likely pay out a few bucks to each player on the game. Well, each player ended up getting $300. That was the payoff for each player. Right? Michigan J. Todd says, my pick this week for the upset pick contest is Furman versus Montana plus 17. Funny, Michigan J. Todd. If only that game was eligible for the picking, right? If only it was eligible. Texter says, in the real world, it's not the norm for you to do a couple good things and then march into your boss's office and demand a raise or you'll leave. Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. E. Thoughty says, Mark, did you already do the rankings for the upset pick contest? I'm glad you mentioned that. We did do that, but why don't I give you the top 20 right now? Joe D leads us with 36 points. Gold Rush is tied with 36. E. Thoughty, you're in third, 35.5. Lee Corso's in fourth, 35. Minor 49ers in fifth, 34.5. Josh Pate is in sixth place, 34. In seventh place, we've got Mark L.O. Ducks, 33.5 points, tied with Madcraft with the same. Brandon is in ninth place with 33 points. We've got Pat McAfee in 10th place with 29.5. Stanford Steve in 11th with 29. Dan B in 12th with 28.5, followed by Kyle D with 26 and 13th. Also tied with him is Logan Simpson. Sherb is in 15th place, tied with the Leprechaun of Lyman, Hiddly-hoo, with 24.5 points. We've got Kevin H. with 23. Delvin is in 18th place with 18.5. Delano, the truck driver, has 18 and tied for 20th. We have JC and Justin L. with 17.5 points is where you guys can are the current standings for you. Very, very, very excited about that. Texter says, Mark, I would say South Carolina is a middle class, and getting a star like Spencer Rattler was a Christmas bonus. Is South Carolina a middle class? Or are you guys of the impression that they're starting to feel like a minor league team to schools like Florida State? You go to South Carolina first. You do well, okay? Then you transfer somewhere else. You pull a Jordan Birch. You pull a Marshawn Lloyd. You pull a Juice Wells. Okay, my name is Juice Wells. I showed my value at South Carolina. Now I'm going to peace out and head to the highest bidder. I mean, is that not a problem to you? That shouldn't happen at South Carolina. Why does it happen at South Carolina? Because South Carolina doesn't have the NIL funds that other schools do. At my university, people are really ticked right now, okay, because the university is spending $400 million to upgrade Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, Diesel, and make it like a wine and cheese event. They're widening the seats. They're giving more first-class amenities, and they're selling it under the guise of we're making Ben Hill Griffin Stadium better, which is just going to allow them to charge more. And like the optics of that off of a 5-7 season, when you're losing recruits and losing kids in the portal, everyone's saying, put the 400, leave the stadium alone. Nobody's asking for these upgrades, and put the $400 million in NIL.
Well, have you looked at America's obesity statistics? I think we need widened seats in this country.
We do.
Yeah, we do. They're getting real tight seats. Look, I don't know how Ben Hill Griffin has changed over the years. I know what my school did to increase capacity without adding anything new to the stadium. They just pulled up the stickers and moved them about 3 inches closer together. This dirty pool. You could add another 2 people per row in every section, and all of a sudden, boom, you've raised your capacity by 1,500 or 2,000 people. It's crazy how that happens.
K. Neal on Twitter chimes in and he says, Mark, there's nothing disgusting about giving your services where you wish for the pay you're looking for. People really act like athletes are supposed to be the only part of the equation not looking out for themselves. Save disgust for true moral issues, not switching football teams. Brother, you are getting a haul when you are getting name, image, and likeness, a free scholarship, every meal paid for, your room and board paid for at a school like the University of Florida. You are getting a haul, and you are featured, and you are the best player on the team, and you are entering the transfer portal because you want a cash grab. Guys, do I blame these players for doing so? Kind of. But I more blame the fact that here we are without guardrails in a system allowing players to declare themselves as greedy. It's disgusting to me, man. It is disgusting. It is gross, right? It's really lame. And it's really hard to love college football as much as we once did. We've got Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, joining us next. My friends, you are not going to believe what a college football playoff committee member told Mr. Dennis Dodd himself. That's next here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate. Joining us right now, a national college football writer for CBS Sports. Read him all the time. You are not going to believe the scoop that he has for us today. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Been reading him my entire life. Dennis, thanks so much for the time. Happy holidays to you and yours. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Mark?
Wonderful to catch up with you, Dennis. Truly do appreciate it. So, Dennis, let's get right to it. I couldn't believe an article that you had and what a college football playoff committee member shared with you. Can you bring our audience into that?
Well, that person basically said that he used the word I couldn't see Florida State winning a national championship without their obviously starting quarterback. Well, and nowhere in the protocol does that even come close to being hinted at. And what you think a team might do, I mean, we could say the same about any of the other teams in contention or in the field, why you think they will or won't win a national championship. And so that gave us an indication inside the room as to what had happened. I just keep coming up with reasons where I'm flabbergasted. This is basically the only metric that didn't have Florida State in. The AP had Florida State safely in at number 4, the coaches at number 3, with much, much bigger voting pools. I think 60 in each, around 60 in each. This is 13 people who, it looks to me, someone or some people in the room got up in front and really changed the narrative about an undefeated major conference champion. And the result is, I don't think it's a credible playoff this year, frankly.
I'm right there with you. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, joining us here on the show. Dennis, how is a team that is 13-0 not one of the 4 best teams unless best is only determined in the final week of the season?
Well, you hit it on the head. And if the concern is that a team played a third-string quarterback, overcame adversity, and still won by 10 points on a foreign field, then I refer everyone to week 3 in South Florida, where Alabama did the same thing. So if we're going to downgrade Florida State for that, then the only difference between that and Alabama is recency bias. You know, we pay attention to the things that are in front of us at the moment. That shouldn't be the case. That's not in the protocol either. Oh, and by the way, Alabama lost a game. Not only did they lose a game, it was their worst non-conference home loss since 2004. They lost by 10. They were handled by Texas. This wasn't some fluke three-pointer at the buzzer. This was a game where Texas held the ball for the last 7 minutes and 14 seconds at Bryant-Denny Stadium, did not score, ran it down their throat, and won comfortably. So I just don't get it. I don't get it. And look, this is not a decision between Florida State and Cincinnati, or Florida State and Tennessee, or Alabama and Cincinnati. This is Florida friggin' State for a national program, multiple national championships, and somehow they didn't look good playing. Well, you know what? You know what else doesn't look good playing is Michigan, with its coach suspended for half the season. They're just supposed to forget about that. Once by the school, once by the conference, who deemed he was guilty, and everything's supposed to be fine. I've got really big problems.
Yeah, I do as well, Dennis. What message are we sending when, in my opinion, Florida State was the second most obvious choice to Washington, right? Those are the 2 schools where there was no beef to me. You know, Michigan, there is a clear argument to keep them out, but, you know, don't get injured. You can cheat on your assignments, but just don't get injured, and you will be fine. I have deep concerns with the messages that we are sending our young people. Dennis, as you kind of put yourself into that room when those decisions were made, and I think we're all sensing perhaps corruption is a word that comes to mind, but do you believe the subject of television ratings came up when the committee was deliberating teams? Hey, we got to honor. Okay.
I can't answer that question. What I can speak on is the very tangible and real sense that this is the least transparent way to pick a championship field as to really exist in sports. A progressive bracket in the pro sports is obvious. It's based on your record. You know, you get into that top 7 in baseball, you're in. Same in football in each conference. Okay, there are tiebreakers. The tiebreaker in this case was, you know, the people in the room. How do they decide champions? I said this. AP released their votes, and any given week, those 62 voters are allowed to show people how they voted. In the coaches poll, they at least at the end of the championship game in 2000 next year on January 9th, I think they end up releasing their final ballots. Okay. Not only do the committee not release any part of how the sausage is made, but they have made it so that when it's a very complicated process. It doesn't have to be how they vote for these teams, and it may be intentional, so you don't get to see it. They vote in blocks of 6 until they get their 25 on the stupid Tuesday night shows and on this. And so every time they vote, the memory of that vote is wiped out on their computer, so there's no record to save. But that's not tell Florida State that. You know, tell me that. I don't care about that. If you don't want your vote out there, then don't be on the committee. There's thousands of people that would love to be on there. And I know they're worried about social media and backlash. Again, get somebody who will do it. So I think that's the biggest problem here. We don't know what happened.
I'm curious, Dennis, how you are taking in what's going on with the transfer portal right now. And I wonder aloud how every fan of college football fails to realize that what's happening here is harmful to the sport.
Well, it's not going away. I keep telling people the only conversation, you know, we should be having is over, I guess, the length of the portal opening, and they addressed that. The NCAA went from 45 to 30 days, but there's a reason we have a transfer portal. The NCAA illegally, in terms of, well, no, I guess lawfully illegal, restricted the movement of these players. And this has been around for more than 5 years. This isn't new. Now, all the quarterbacks going in at once, that's new. That's a function of the portal. But let's get down to why there is a portal. The NCAA illegally restricted movement for all those years. And then in August of 21, that's the biggest weight on this system, brought in the one-time transfer exception, which is fine. Again, you see players playing at 4 schools. I'm not going to tell you how JT Daniels got to play at 4 schools, but good for him. And if the only issue is roster management, well, give me the $9 million a year. I'll figure it out. You know, coaches have. And look, they successfully got the portal opening changed from 45 to 30 days because some schools have to do stuff really hard, like recruit, get ready for a bowl game, keep their roster that they have, and then go in the portal to get players. I don't have much sympathy for coaches. I think anything that gives players freedom like this is fine. And it's up to us as fans and coaches to keep track of it. I have no problem with it at all.
I guess, Dennis, I would just say I think there should be some guardrails about, you know, the reason.
Not coming. Yeah, not coming. They'll be slapped with a lawsuit so quickly. And that's why they put the portal in October of 2018 and put the one-time transfer exception in August of 21, because they saw someone somewhere had enough foresight to think, if we don't do this, we're going to get sued back to the Stone Age. And look, you saw Charlie Baker's proposal this week. That was in response to multiple huge lawsuits they're fighting in other areas. So this, I've already written this. That's why I'm so strident about it. It isn't going backwards.
Dennis, I appreciate what you're saying completely. However, can we not enforce NIL the way that it was designed and to prohibit inducements of players, as Greg Sankey told me last year?
It's on the books. Poaching and inducements are on the books. Well, whose responsibility is that? It's the NCAA's. How many of these cases have they prosecuted with poaching? I don't think any. I think they're looking into them. But poaching is a nebulous word. How do you prove that somebody offered an inducement? Unless you got it written down on paper or somebody tells you that, and nobody's motivated to do that because the coaches aren't. I've written this story. The coaches aren't going to turn each other in because they want to reserve the right to do it, because they all do it. That's the way this game is played right now. I had a major college coach in another sport tell me long ago, and this has only been around 2.5 years, but within that time frame, this is a coach who regularly recruits 5-stars. He said they come into the office, sit down, and say, "What can I get?" And as distasteful as that sounds, that's the system we work around. They go to where the money is. And if you want to be a top player in any sport, you better have a collective. Now, those may soon go away with Charlie Baker's proposal this week of directly compensating players, but it should stand that that's the way things are. Yes, you can make it go away. It's illegal. You're not supposed to do that. But it's up to the NCAA to prosecute it. The reality is they've got, I don't know what their roster is right now. They've got 60 people in enforcement, maybe. We're talking about 133 schools just in FBS and 350 in basketball.
Dennis Dodd joining us on the show about Charlie Baker's proposal. In what way, Dennis, does this benefit college football? Schools can enter into NIL deals directly with their athletes for $30,000 a year. How many schools can afford that? And, how does that help to address the parity problem that already exists?
Yeah, I've got thoughts. First of all, I thought conceptually, I thought it was great by Charlie Baker. In fact, I told him that in Las Vegas when I was there. I said, great move. It's got the NCAA on record. It's saying, we want to create more, formalize unlimited NIL benefits. The school can be involved in setting up deals at this trust fund of $30,000 where you could make $120,000 over a 4-year period. The devil's in the details. And, they're using buzzwords like subdivision, wants to form a new subdivision. Whoa, the last time that happened was 1978. There were about, I want to say 250 schools, maybe 300 in Division I. And they created 1AA, which is now FCS, and 1A, which is now FBS, and told those schools that have been relegated, hey, you get your own playoffs, and there's going to be all kinds of TV revenue. Well, half those things happened. They got their own playoffs, and they're happy with it. It's fine, but those schools have a different brand than those in FBS. FBS is like being in a white tablecloth steak restaurant, whether you're Georgia Southern or USC. It affects state subsidies. It affects your ability to recruit. It affects the ability to, frankly, recruit faculty if you're at that top level. And so with these parameters, if indeed this comes about, where is the cut point? You're right. Charlie Baker used another word. He said top 100 schools. Well, my radar immediately went off. Well, what about the MAC? What about the Sun Belt? What about Conference USA and the lower divisions of the Mountain West? Does that mean they're not going to be in it? And he just kind of waved it off and said, this is just a start. They're going to be in. Well, I don't think we know. I mean, I think there's a chance that this is a de facto breakaway where they are defined by the top 68, which is the Power Four right now. You know who the conferences are. Now, having said that, we all know that Akron doesn't have the same resources as Alabama. All this does is formalize that. Is this going to change as long as Akron has access to the playoff, theoretically? Is this going to change things? I don't know. I'm not acting like I do. But these schools are going to have to make hard and fast decisions on what they can afford.
Dennis Dodd joining us. Dennis, I know who one of your 4 playoff teams would have been. Who would have been your other 3? And who do you believe is truly the best team in America right now?
I'll tell you the ones I had in order. I had Washington number 1, and frankly, there's no comparison with Michigan. They played a tougher schedule, and they won all their games. There's nothing to compare. Michigan's schedule was crap compared to Washington. They played four ranked teams. They played in the conference that was not by far and away, but I think this season was the best conference, the Pac-12. Okay, I had Michigan number 2. I had who's the other undefeated team? I had Florida State. I had Texas number 3, and I had Florida State number 4. And I didn't look back. Georgia's out because they didn't win their conference. Alabama can't compare to Texas because I just told you why. And Florida State won all their games. When did Florida State become North Alabama? there is a league that has its own network, and within that network, it has its favorite team. I think that had an influence on the committee members, and you know what I'm talking about, the SEC network. And so, on the day when Alabama's brand is bigger, that wins this argument, I think we're all in trouble, because you and I know there was a point when Florida State, their brand was by far and away bigger than Alabama's. And had this happened, I will go to my grave saying this, had this happened to Alabama, they're undefeated, they're down to their third string quarterback, they would be making 30 for 30s out of this. What a gutty performance, survival instinct. Oh, great. And by the way, it's happened before. In the first CFP in 2014, remember Ohio State?
Yes.
Remember Ohio State playing with a third string quarterback? Remember Ohio State winning it all and going undefeated?
Yes.
In that, and I'll make one final mention, they completely ruined their credibility when Liberty got in over SMU. If undefeated's undefeated, then there you go. You can make a compelling case for SMU playing a better schedule and being better on the field at that point.
Dennis Dodd, national college football writer for CBS Sports, at Dennis Dodd, DODD CBS on Twitter. Great insight, Dennis. Happy holidays to you and yours. Thanks so much for the time.
You got it. Happy holidays.
All right, take care. Dennis Dodd joining us here on the show today, my friends. Insight you'll get nowhere else. You see, folks, you speak to unbiased people. When people have no biases, we all feel the same way. Florida State was screwed far more than anyone else in the history of the sport of college football has been screwed, and I'll go as far as to say corruption. I certainly will. The top 5 at 5 is coming your way next here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. You guys have a ton of choices out there. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day. Jam-packed in this hour. Diesel, what do you say we try to bring Dan Scott on around 5:40 this afternoon? That would be awesome. Get a little update from Missoula, Montana on the Dins going for a spot in the Final Four of the FCS. How about that one, my friends? A spot in the Final Four is on the line. And maybe, just maybe, a win tonight, and Furman is hosting the national semifinal. How sweet would that be? Let's go for that. Also coming up in the next segment, the most difficult admission for Panthers fans. That's coming up in the next segment here on the show today. But as for right now, it is time for us to do that jam. We call it the Top 5 at 5. The top 5 biggest sports stories of the day. The top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstate, Offsiders, the Top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the Top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
5.
Let's keep it right here with the Dins, 17.5-point underdogs. Will they successfully F Montana 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, or will they successfully F Montana all the time? Mark, that sounds like something you can't say on the radio. You can, because it is Furman's slogan. It is Furman's hashtag. It's what they attempt to do to every opponent they play. F you 1 time, F you 2 times, F you 3 times, F you all the time. So what has to happen tonight for Furman to be victorious? You got to deal with the elements. You got to stomach the weather, man. You got to hold Montana from just going gangbusters on you in the early going. You want to look up in the third quarter and still see Furman in the game. Montana has blitzkrieged a lot of these teams early. Diesel told me what they've averaged, or they've scored at least 34 points in their last 5 games. That isn't who Furman is. That isn't who Furman has been, right? Furman wins a lot of games in the low 20s or 17-14 type of games. And so for me, Furman has got to win the battle of identity. Who is going to get the other side to play their type of game today? Is it going to be the Furman Paladins? We will soon see. And I can't wait to check this out. Coverage right here on the Fan Upstate, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, nationally televised kickoff, 9 p.m. ESPN2. We're excited. It has been a down year for sports in the Upstate. Very down year. Clemson had an edict to make the college football playoff. That was out of play in September. South Carolina following up a top 25 season with a losing one. The Atlanta Braves, biggest postseason favorites that MLB has had in quite some time, crap the bed, right? And the Carolina Panthers, an XFL team playing in the NFL. What more can you possibly say about that? Get behind the mojo, the feel-good of the Furman Paladins this evening, and we, my friends, will be right there with you. Next up,
4.
At number 4, how about the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, and a national championship? Michigan is my pick to win the national championship this year, my friends. Sorry, they are. I think they're a wee bit better than just about everybody else. And, you know, it's interesting. I asked Brent Beard who his pick would be to win it all. He had Georgia 1, Alabama 2, and Texas 3. He believed the SEC championship game was essentially the national championship game. Who is your pick to win the national championship this year? I'm going Michigan. I am fascinated by what's going on behind the scenes with Michigan trying to lock up Jim Harbaugh, 5-year, $55 million deal, $11 million a year, with a caveat that he can't look at NFL jobs. Why would Jim Harbaugh agree to that? You think Jim Harbaugh wants to be dealing with staffers cheating, with NIL, with a transfer portal, with all of this nonsense? You think Jim Harbaugh wants that action? I am not so sure. Next up.
3.
At number 3. What do you say we predict the playoff teams in the National Football League? When all is said and done, here are the 7 that are going to be in from the AFC. I have got the Kansas City Chiefs, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Baltimore Ravens, the Miami Dolphins. I've got the Denver Broncos. I've got the Indianapolis Colts. And I will go with the Buffalo Bills as my final and 7th seed. Over in the NFC, give me the 1 seed, Philadelphia Eagles. Big game against Dallas this weekend. That's for the division lead. 2 seed, San Francisco 49ers. 3 seed, Detroit Lions. Somebody's got to win the South, right? Who is it? I'll say it's the New Orleans Saints. They are your 4 seed. At 5, I will go Dallas. Can you imagine poor New Orleans has to face Dallas then in the wild card round? Dallas will be your number 5 seed. The Rams are suddenly on fire. Who's it going to be, they or the Seattle Seahawks? I'll go Sean McVay and the LA Rams with the 6th seed, and I will go Minnesota Vikings at number 7. My 7 playoff teams in each conference. How did I do? Agree or disagree with the 7 I have selected? Next up.
2.
At number 2 on the show today. Lots of rumors surrounding Shohei Ohtani today. Now, guys, I got to give you a warning here, okay? We've got folks that are in our chat and in our text line, and they try to report stuff as though it's news, as though it's already happened. That's not nice to do to us, okay? Because, like, Diesel and I know better than to just latch on to somebody who says something. A couple of you guys were trying to get me to say on the air the other day that Will Shipley had entered the transfer portal, only it was a different Shipley, and I didn't fall for it. Like, we check and double check and triple check everything that we look at. But guys, you got to be, if you're reporting something as fact and news, you have to know it's done. Please do not spew rumor on here or conjecture on here. You got to know it's done. So how about the fact that John Morosi has an update here on Shohei Ohtani, and he says there's 5 teams still in it to win it.
We do expect that Shohei will make his decision in the coming days. By the end of the weekend is what I've been told most recently. There is still a lot of mystery, which is, of course, very on brand for Shohei as to exactly where he is going to go, when exactly he'll decide, how he'll let us know where he has decided. But we do know that none of the big 5, as I call them, have been eliminated necessarily. The Dodgers, the Giants are certainly part of that mix, the Angels, the Cubs, and the Blue Jays. The Dodgers, according to many, are still the favorites. I would say, though, that the team I've heard the second most about this week is the Blue Jays, and they put together a very compelling pitch to him, reportedly in Dunedin on Monday in their palatial new player development complex. And the more that I've heard about is what his decision-making points are, what he values, that Toronto matches up quite well with that.
Can I add the random mid-interview music bed drop to the Can We Stop thing for sports television to stop doing? Like you're in the middle of an interview. You just throw this guitar riff underneath them for about 20 seconds and then cut it off. Why?
Doesn't make sense. Let the guy talk. Let the cooks cook. Shohei Ohtani, guys, where does he end up? Could it be the Blue Jays? If it's the Blue Jays, Dave Roberts of the Dodgers is in trouble. Why? Because Dave Roberts broke the Ohtani rule. Ohtani's camp asked for total privacy about the meetings. And Dave Roberts said, yeah, we met with him. Not going to lie to you. Was a good, productive conversation. That's exactly what Ohtani and company did not want you to do. And that's exactly what they did. How about that? Where does he end up? I'm going to go Dodgers 1, but what I would do is, if I was Ohtani, I would take a really close look at the Atlanta Braves. I really would. And finally,
1.
You know, folks, I had Mike Golick Jr. coming at me about this. He said, look, when you hear rhetoric like this, it's only when it happens to your team. Here's what I said about Trevor Etienne, the brother of Travis, entering the transfer portal and leaving my Florida Gators yesterday. This isn't about playing time for upper echelon guys. Etienne is the top playmaker for a blue blood brand. Florida is a blue blood brand. They've won 3 national championships in the last 30 years. Only schools that can say that: Florida, Florida State, Nebraska, LSU, and Alabama. 3 in the last 30 years, okay? This isn't about playing time. This is about wanting to enter uncapped free agency, where the highest bidder claims the prize. And it is disgusting. It is gross. This sport needs guardrails badly, and do not allow college athletes to gaslight you into thinking they're being abused. They're receiving a $200,000 4-year experience. That's just from the admissions office. Then they're receiving $30,000 to $50,000 a year from the football program in training and treatment and development, et cetera, et cetera. Who pays for the flights? Who pays for the hotel stays? You know, when Clemson went by bus to Florida State a couple of years ago during the pandemic, and Florida State pulled the plug on Clemson right before kickoff, you know what just the bus trip cost Clemson? $300,000. Okay? So when I say to you that only 25 to 30 programs make a profit on football, please stop with it. They're rolling in millions of dollars and it's a time for the kids to get a cut. This is not what college football was designed to be. Ever. Now, Dennis Dodd, you heard him say, well, it's not going to change. And that's depressing to me because you know what's going to happen? Eventually, there isn't going to be a bag for these blue chip players to go get. You know, eventually this sport could fall in popularity so much that the demand for the high-end guys just isn't there anymore. Overnight, all of this activity went from highly illegal to in front of everybody's face. And I just was sent a tweet. Somebody sent me that Travis Etienne has a $264,000 NIL evaluation. Is that per year? What does that even mean? Like $264,000 per year or what? So now we're attaching dollar figures to players in athletics. Do you feel like, folks, I mean, like, how do you feel about where we're headed here? This isn't about, things just happening poorly to my team, right? This is happening to South Carolina. This is happening to the Florida Gators. This is happening to teams throughout college football. You know, and then what these guys do is they blame Florida. Well, sorry, Mark, you should have won more. He wants to be on a winning team. Well, wouldn't a real man want to be part of making Florida a winning team? These guys don't care about your school anymore. It used to mean something to be a Clemson Tiger, to be a Gamecock, to be a Florida Gator. Well, guess what? It still does mean something to be a Clemson Tiger because Barrett Carter, a projected first or second round pick, is returning to school. And that's what happens when you as a program have established a culture people want to be a part of. Congratulations, Clemson fans. You guys built this from fans to coach to program.
I would hope and wish that one day Mike Golick Jr. is a better user of social media than this flippant dismissal of, oh, well, you just don't like it because it's your team. Like Mike Golick Jr., that's the same response that all these other mouth-breathing knuckle draggers out there say. The same things. You just have a bigger platform.
Yeah, it is. It is. And he's not listening to the show because we scream that this is horribly unhealthy for the sports as far as the eye can see. Mark Ryan, why don't you want these guys to be able to make money? Why don't you want to be no fairly and the way NIL was intended? Yes, I'm fine with that, but not go to the highest bidder and you pay and you develop a kid and you invest in a kid only to see him leave.
I want to know if and when a university will ever sue another university for damages. Let's say with Travis Etienne, you put 3 years into him and you estimate the value of what you've put into a player to this point. If you can prove tampering, let's just say he goes to Texas. Well, if Florida could prove tampering by Texas officials, could Florida sue Texas for the damages, not only of what they've already spent and invested into this guy, but what his potential value was to the university for the remainder of his time there at Florida?
Sure. And why would Trevor Etienne not have to pay that back or owe some money to the university? You know, you have taken from the university and you have not provided the university with the service that you promised. Why wouldn't you owe the university something? And those are today's top 5 at 5. I am exhausted. Diesel, this week has worn me the hell out. Florida State, transfer portal, angry fans.
I see fans on message boards who just spend an inordinate amount of time upset, screaming, watching the transfer portal, worried about whether or not this player or that player is going to leave. You know, like, you could say that it's caring a little bit less about your team, but like, I'm just like, all right, whoever's on the team next year is on the team next year. Like, it doesn't matter to me anymore.
Texter says Juice Wells got $800,000 from NIL this year just to play 4 games and haul ass in the portal. Texter says Mark, Atlanta came out and said they've got all the position players they need. They were asked, is he a position player? No, he's a DH, and we have our DHers. He can't pitch until probably mid of season 2025. Texter says, I would love Harbaugh as the Cardinals head coach. Won't happen, but I can dream. Texter says, I wish Dennis Dodd had said it wasn't a fluke 4th and 31 miracle to beat Auburn instead of 3 at the buzzer regarding Texas over Alabama. Texter says, Mark, Forbes says the average salary in the U.S. is for $59,428. These kids make way more than that. The portal is going to ruin college football without the applied rules to govern it. And Dennis Dodd says they're not coming anytime soon. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle up. You know, this could be like one day you wake up and you just feel like breaking up with college football. This could be one of those where, like, it's a very slow falling out of love with it, right? It's not about players making money. It's about doing so in shady, corrupt ways that don't allow you to build a team anymore. That's what's really going on here.
Here's one thing that we haven't talked about. Trey brought it up. This is a valid point here, Mark. He said, I'll agree that there should be some guidelines. As a South Carolina fan, I'm disappointed with losing top players to the portal the last 2 years, but we did get Rattler through the portal. Everybody hates it when it happens to players from their team. You love it when guys choose to join your team. So I would challenge you to admonish the players who joined Florida's roster this year. And everybody, if you really dislike the transfer portal, use the platform and use the time to say, I don't really care about this guy. I didn't really, You'd have to tell me what players coming into Florida made significant contributions this year to wins, caught touchdown passes, whatever, picked up a lot of yards, played a lot of snaps. You know, everybody loves the players that choose to transfer in.
Diesel, we're not saying, just like immigration, right? We're not saying there should be no immigration.
Sure.
Right? But you've got to have guidelines,
right?
And you have to have a system of checks and balances.
Well,
I'm not against transfers, okay? What I am against is inducements, poaching of the players that you're developing, and kids just deciding through their mom and dad that it's time to buy grandma a house. We're going to leave for the highest bidder.
I do have a problem. One rule change that I would like to make would be the 1 year penalty-free, one-time penalty-free transfer if your coach leaves. That should only be the case if you follow your coach to the next destination. You shouldn't just get one free transfer just because. I mean, you should get it if he wants you to come with him, you should go. But that could be the entire team that up and leaves because your head coach took another job. But how many players would a coach legitimately want to or be able to bring with him to the next destination? 2, 3 tops.
Fair point. Fair point indeed. All right. Up next on the show, the most difficult admission for Carolina Panthers fans is it's offsides.
Trey, way to come in right there at the end and issue a good point. Thank you very much. Madcraft, Brandon, everybody who's been in the thread for the entire show today, we thank you so much. Back on Monday, is that right?
Back on Monday. We can't wait. We will see you guys then, my friends. And thank you guys for all that you do for us. We appreciate you, man. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Take it easy, guys. We're going to a party.